Every witch should be knowledgeable in some way of spirit evocation. In a way, spirit conjuring is one of the oldest forms of magic. And I'm not just talking about the grimoire traditions, I'm also talking about the more primitive forms of summoning spirits and talking to them. It's most definitely been a part of shamanism and pre-Christian cultures throughout the world, the idea of calling forth a spirit and talking to them. There are many different grimoires, many different traditions, and most of them are Christian, especially the ones like the Key of Solomon and the Goetia. All of those systems are things that witches can work with, and they have been worked with by witches. And again, every witch should know a little something about it. I have some books here so everyone can read up a little bit on the way witches have used spirit conjuration and evocation in their practice. Here is the grimoire of Lady Sheba, and in it she has two rituals about calling forth spirits. One of them is the undines, or the elementals of water, and she recommends going out on a beach, drawing a circle, drawing a triangle in the sand, and drawing this symbol that she provides in the sand and summoning these water elementals. She has another one that is also in Paul Husson's Mastering Witchcraft that talks about calling forth the horned god. So this is going to be a video all about conjuring spirits, but more specifically from a witch's point of view. So in my practice, I do work with spirits, and I won't claim to know everything or be an expert, but I'm going to share the way that I do it and the way that works for me. So I'll show you some more books that you should look into to learn more about conjuring spirits. This is the Goetia, or the Lesser Key of Solomon, and it shows, this is one of the most famous books on conjuring spirits, and it's a very workable system, but it is very old-fashioned. So in it there are plenty of spirits or demons, which in the classical sense of the word demon, it doesn't mean what the Christians say it means. It just means a powerful spirit that's not a deity or a god. There's tons of them, and all of them have a seal. So these seals, in theory, are a link or a key that work through our subconscious mind to call forth a spirit. There's a circle and a triangle, and it's very complex. Some people work with this and they stick very close to the tradition that the grimoire sets forth, or the other grimoires. You can bind a spirit to a physical object, or you can trap them in it, and this allows you to have control over them. This is a really expensive, very big book, The Cunning Man's Handbook by Jim Baker, and it has a whole section on how the cunning folk would go about summoning spirits. And it's almost a simplified version of what all the grimoires provide. And it talks about incenses, talismans, links, pentacles, and all the things you need to summon forth spirits. And the cunning folk were not witches, they were Christians. In a way, they believed that their mortal enemies were witches, because it was believed that the witches cast curses on people, and the cunning folk worked to remove those curses. Here's another recent book from the 70s, What Witches Do by Stuart Farrer, and he was part of an Alexandrian coven, and in the coven, Alex Sanders taught how to summon spirits. And there's a simple little ritual in here to call forth a spirit. The Rite of Queen Hagiel. He talks about using this square of Venus, which is the link to the spirit because she is an aspect of Venus and she's ruled by Venus. Sigils that you draw on paper, and I'm showing you all these books because they all represent a different aspect of summoning spirits from a witch's point of view. High Magic's Aid by Gerald Gardner, under his witch name Sire, talks also about summoning spirits and having a witch as a helper, and the witch called Morven adds power to the ritual. Now, today, very solidly, witches have a link to the ceremonial magician's use of spirits and conjuring them. And one of the most basic texts is Mastering Witchcraft by Paul Husson. And he talks about calling forth Vasago for divination. The use of summoning forth the spirit for divination, making a wand for divination because you need a magical weapon to call forth a spirit, and I'll get to these that I have right here in a bit. Magical lamps or consecrated candles because you need candles to see. The show stone or the magic mirror, which is basically a black mirror. The pentacle of protection because you need some form of symbol that symbolizes to you protection from a higher power. The sigil of Vasago because you need a sigil to link to them. The license to depart because you need to tell the spirit once you conjure them that you're done working with them and send them away. So all of these are just basic little examples, and I'm going to show you now that we've looked at all these examples from the classical grimoire perspective to the cunning folk perspective that's much simplified and more folky, I'll say, to witchcraft in the 60s and 70s with Alexanders and Stuart Farrer and the Alexandrian covens which practiced it. Gerald Gardner, who was very interested in spirit conjuration. All of these were done by these witches who are very public witchcraft figures from the 60s, 50s, 70s. And so it's my belief that every witch, if they're not of sound mind or confident enough to actually conjure a spirit, they should know a little something about spirit conjuration. Here is all of my spirit conjuration paraphernalia. So, when you call forth a spirit, the first thing that you need to do is learn what aspects the spirit has involved with it. So this is all of the correspondences, incense, colors, their name, their sigil, etc. So Boone is very popular. Everyone works with Boone. Well, maybe not everyone, but he's probably one of the most popular spirits today, and he's from the Goetia, and he works very much with money, and a lot of people just ask him for various requests because his name is Boone, and he grants boons in a way. Vasago can be used for divination, and he's not actually bound because I haven't activated this talisman in a ritual or this seal of Vasago. But I'll get to binding and blasting and using your magical weapons if something goes wrong in a bit. There are candles because you need to be able to see the black mirror. There's incense because it purifies the area, as does the water, and it can be used further to help the spirit to manifest. And then there are the magical weapons again. This is a crystal holder in a way. You can use it to hold a crystal to scry with and to see the spirit with, or you can use it for divination because the spirit can show you symbols through the black mirror or the crystal that you put in there. And this is velvet, and it's just very black, and you can look into it and receive visions much in the way that any black mirror or vessel of water that's darkened. The blackness and plainness allows you to receive pictures and images. It has this little holder here, I don't know what to call this little indent here that you can use to set the seal of the spirit that you're conjuring. This triangle is known as the triangle of manifestation, or the triangle of art. If you think about it, a man and a woman come together and they make a child. So the number of production is 3, man, woman, child. So deep down, we all know that 3 is a number of producing and bringing forward something. So it's fitting that this would be a triangle, if you want to call something forth. And you can also set, if you're using the triangle, you can also set this in there so you can focus on what you're trying to call forward, or you could just set it somewhere. It's very popular today to minimalize everything, to be very minimalist, and what matters is that we preserve the symbols. So we have the triangle and we have the circle, and that's as bare bones as you can get. For many people, it works just fine. So this is drawn on the floor in this book, and the triangle, there's actually, because this is all copied from handwritten texts, all these old grimoires, we don't have as much information. We don't have all the information and all the descriptions. So in the original drawing of this layout that we have, this triangle looked a little bit like it was raised up. There looked like there was a little bit of shadow on the edges, and this was filled in. So what people have taken from that is that perhaps, possibly, maybe, this triangle was propped up like this, and inside of it was a black mirror. So it could also be seen as this is just empty, like in this picture, and it's on the floor flat, and there's no black mirror in there, and the spirit is supposed to manifest within the triangle and the circle in some visible form. But what's been most effective for many people is to use a black mirror where the circle is. So we don't know what this was originally supposed to be, but we can experiment and try to find out what works. So for me, what works is having a triangle that's propped up on the outside of the circle with a black mirror inside. And this is the way a lot of people do it. Let's just get into it. There are a billion places where you can read about the theories, about all the different tools and all the different methods of calling forth the spirit. I'm just going to get into it, and I'm just going to say the steps you can take to call forth the spirit on your own. If you conjure a spirit that has been known to be aggressive, that you should either not call it forth, or you should have proper protection and a lot of experience in dealing with working with spirits. So I'm not reading this from a book or anything. I'm just going forward with my experience, and I'd hope that it can help people get some ideas on how to conjure forth a spirit from a witch's perspective. The first thing I'd say you need to get is a triangle, and this can either be marked out on the floor, or it can be made out of wood or cardboard. Sad to say that this is cardboard. It's nothing fancy. It's just a triangle, and you need to be able to see that it's a triangle. And this does a dual purpose of both manifesting the spirit and keeping it trapped within the bounds of the triangle. So you can write holy words or holy names of God around it, and this is supposed to lock the spirit in, but also the fact that you trace over it with your magical weapon, that keeps the spirit in as well. You can also use one of these. This is just another way of holding a black mirror or a crystal. I'd recommend not bothering with it. You can get one later on or have one made. Like my brother made this, and it was awesome. Awesome birthday present. You can also set this inside of the triangle if it's laying flat on the ground, so that you have something to look into. Because the way that you can most easily see signs of the spirit manifesting are through a black mirror or some other method of seeing the spirit and scrying to see the spirit. When you have your triangle, you can place a bowl of water with a few drops of India ink or black paint so that the water is dark. You can place that in the middle of your triangle on the floor. Anything black that you can look into. This is wood, and it's painted black and covered in clear varnish. So that's your method of seeing the spirit. And during the ritual, when the spirit has manifested, you'll be able to see signs of it in the black mirror. When you have your black mirror and triangle made, you can make your circle, and it can be made with tape or it can be painted on fabric. You can use elaborate patterns for circles with names written around the circle, and that can add strength to it, but the main symbol is the circle. The circle is a symbol of the microcosm. So when you stand in the center of a circle, it basically means that you're the master of the circle. And anything you say in there can, in a way, have the effect of being said by God himself or the gods themselves. So the symbol standing in it means that you're the master of whatever you're doing. You set up your chair in the middle of the circle, and you can look into the mirror while sitting in the circle. I've never used a wand, and I don't feel any need to use a wand, so I just use either my sword or my athame. And both have been consecrated in Gardner's traditional method to basically have power over spirits. You'll need a magical weapon. If you feel like you may need some extra help, you can bring a more docile weapon in the circle with you, and also a more aggressive one if need be. So I'm going to keep it very simple and just show you with my athame. You'll need that in the circle. You'll need a censer of incense, and you'll need some incense which relates to the spirit. If you don't have any incense that relates to the spirit, I would feel free to use frankincense, because it's a pretty much good all-purpose incense. Water to purify the circle. Also some salt. So you can have a pentacle or just a dish with salt and some water, and then you can exercise the salt, exercise the water, and combine the two. And then that's your holy water. You'll need a light source to read by, and you'll need your book to read from. This has very old-fashioned conjurations which threaten the spirit and say, in the name of God, in all his many, many names, you must come now. And if you don't come, you'll be tortured forever by God the Almighty, etc. And that's not a very popular method today. Today we tend to be polite to the spirits and be very nice, give them offerings for coming, and only reserve the curses for if they're disobedient or antagonistic. Need at least one, but preferably 2 or 3 round pieces of paper. Some people use gold, silver, copper, all different types of metals which can relate to the spirit, but the most simple and minimal way is just to use paper. So in the circle you would draw your sigil of the spirit, and you would cleanse it in the incense, and you would baptize it in the name of the spirit you're hoping to conjure. So this is pretty much as basic as you can get and as minimal as you can get. So this is the ritual that I tend to use. It's cobbled together from many different sources, old and new, and it's basically partially Christian, but there's a lot of witchcraft deities within it. And a lot of the time I'm calling upon the names of the witches' deities. And any name in here can be switched out with a higher power to use to command the spirit to come forth. So I'm going to go through each of these steps, and I'm going to explain why they're important. And this is a very workable ritual that pretty much anyone can adapt and use to conjure spirits for themselves. And I'm going to publish this ritual on my website, cunningcraftspiritualservices.com, and in a blog post. So you guys can go there and you can look at this and you can adapt it and use it to work for yourselves. So fasting, the first step is fast and pray for at least the day of the ritual. Now, I don't fast because I tend to, rather than my senses heightening and being in a more spiritual frame of mind, I tend to just get grouchy and my mind gets slow and I can't do anything when I'm hungry. So fasting is not really a part of my practice, but if fasting works for you to get you in the right frame of mind, definitely fast. So when you wake up on the day of the ritual, say any prayers that connect you to a higher power. This frame of mind of being connected to a higher power is one of the most important elements of summoning a spirit. So whenever you are ready to do your ritual, beforehand, take a bath or take a cleansing shower and focus on cleansing yourself. So you can say, "Thou shalt purge me with hyssop, O Lord, and I shall be clean. Thou shalt wash me, and I shall be whiter than snow." That's a very old prayer for purifying yourself. Another way you can purify the space around you and purify the circle is saying, "O Lord, all-powerful, eternal God and Father of all creatures, shed upon me the divine influence of thy mercy, for I am thy creature. I beseech thee to defend me from mine enemies and to confirm in me true and steadfast faith." Or any prayer that you like, and you can substitute any name you like to connect with a higher power. So everything that goes in your circle, the incense, the water, your magical weapon, the candles, the circle itself, the triangle, the black mirror, the candlesticks, everything should be exorcised. And you can use custom exorcisms, or you could just say, "I exorcise thee in the holy names of God the Father," or "I exorcise thee in the holy names of Aradia and Kernunos, I exorcise thee in the name of the God and the Goddess," etc. And everything should be cleansed with holy water. Everything should be purified. When you're ready to begin, after you've been purified and after everything within your circle is purified, you can light your candles, place your incense. Then you need to trace your circle with your magical weapon, and that just means drawing it along the line of your circle. You can visualize power coming out of your magical weapon, but you don't have to, because just acknowledging the fact that it's a circle and that you've created the circle is basically what needs to happen. You can do the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram in the circle because you need to clear the area. You can also just say a prayer to purify it and basically bring divine influence into the circle. So this is the prayer I use. "When we enter herein with all humility, let God and Goddess, the mighty ones, enter into this place by the entrance of an eternal happiness, of a divine prosperity, of a perfect joy, of an abundant charity, and of an eternal salutation. Let all the demons fly from this circle, especially those who are opposed unto this work, and let the angels of peace assist and protect this place and persons within, from which let all discord and strife fly and depart. Magnify and extend upon us, O holy Lord and Lady, thy most holy names, and bless our conversation and assembly. Sanctify, O God and Goddess, our humble entry herein, thou blessed and holy ones of the eternal ages. Amen. You should add further protection to the circle by invoking the watchtowers. So there are many ways to do this, but I would recommend summoning them, telling them that they should wait outside of the circle, know that they're being placed outside of the circle. One little tip that a lot of people do not know, and a lot of neo-Wiccans tend to do this, and all I can say is don't, is summon the watchtowers or elements to be within the circle, or summon them without casting a circle. So basically they're just with you in the room. Now, fire can light a home, it can heat a home, it can also burn it down. So if you're going to be summoning elementals or watchtowers, please tell it what to do, please don't let it touch you, and please send it away when you're done. Don't say, leave if you wish, go if you wish, whatever. You don't give it the choice. This is why invoking and banishing pentagrams are so important, because the elementals are not buddies. They can be dangerous. They're the calm forces of nature, they're also the untamed forces of nature. Little tip for anyone summoning the elementals or casting a circle. Don't fall into the neo-Wiccan trap of bringing a fire or a flood into your home. When you're in your circle, it's purified and guarded. You can begin the ritual by creating the sigil. Sprinkle and cense it and baptize it in the name of the spirit it's supposed to be connected to. Place the pentacle into the triangle on the outside of the circle. This says that this is where I want the spirit to go. Call out the invocation until the spirit manifests. So this is the bare bones of what you need to do to begin. And the most important thing that happens is you calling forth the spirit to manifest. And the lengthiest part of the ritual is calling forth the spirit to manifest, because you can't just say, spirit, come here, and expect it to happen. There has to be a lot of commanding and energy going into bringing that spirit into physical manifestation. So I'm not going to read these conjurations. They're very, very long, pages long, but they'll be on my website, on my blog. When the spirit finally appears, or you see signs of the spirit being there, you welcome the spirit, and that just says that for this ritual, you are to remain in this triangle and hear what I desire. By the power of the gods have I called thee, give unto me a true answer. Then you state your desire. When you've stated your desire and the spirit has heard you, you give it the license to depart. And basically that's sending it away and saying it's free to go. When the spirit has gone, say a prayer of thanks to the gods for their protection and aid. Dismiss the circle, gods, and watchtowers. Then, what's important, again, is to banish all of that energy, all of those influences you've called, banish them and send them back to where they came from. So you can do the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram again, or you can recite the same banishing prayer used again and know that that prayer is sending away all these influences. And that's it. That's my ritual for summoning a spirit, and that's as simple as it can get. There's no magical mechanics or occult symbolism. Mostly all of it is prayers that I use, and that's one of the most boiled down ways you can do it, because your words are the things affecting the change and affecting what you want to happen. And so prayers can be just as powerful as the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram or any other rituals that you can use. So the grimoire traditions of calling forth spirits are very lofty, very complex, and they can be very intimidating. But the basic symbols can be adapted to be more simple, and the names can be switched out, and this minimalist approach can be switched to a witchcraft perspective, and it can be customized as well. And so really, evoking spirits is a very old tradition, it's a very powerful tradition, and it's effective. And I think it's our duty as witches to explore this aspect of magical practice. This candle's about dead. But that's my video on how you can summon spirits as a witch, or as any practitioner basically. I just wanted to make this video to show that summoning spirits doesn't have to be lofty and complex. It can be very simple, and if you follow the steps, it can be very easy to cause things to happen. It's a science. There's experimentation that goes into it, and everything is done for a specific reason. The symbols of the spirits are a key to their power, and so are their names, and the conjurations are religious, and they're said in the name of a higher power to help bring forth that spirit. And in the circle, that's the microcosm, we have the power to cause that to happen.